attorney. I grew up in Eunice, LA, and I attend school there also. After graduation, yes, I enrolled in McNeese State University, LSU, and LSU School of Law. I am married to Leah, and I am the father of 2 children. I served in the Marines, and I am very proud of the foundation the United States military allowed me to develop. I found the most interesting experiences in my life is
That's why we call them kids. Give me that here, boy. That's why we call them kids.
Retract.
all right.
Retract.
Okay.
Let me just explain. We're gonna do we got a little technical difficulty going on here. Come on, mister. We got a little anxious guy to be a DA here. What do you think about that? So we are first kicking this off with our church member. Come on.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Mr. Michael Watley. I'm from Barnes, Louisiana. I completed my studies from Louisiana Tech. I'm married to the precious Mrs. Jenny, and we have 1 son and 1 daughter. I spent most of my life in sales and most of my Christian life in sales. The latter is selling the truth that God is our Savior, and the most interesting thing in my life has been that I gave my life to Christ, and that partnership has been fruitful. The most embarrassing moment I have ever had was getting kicked out of school, and that was also the hardest time of my life. What was even harder was that I didn't have the guts to tell my mother that I was no longer in school. That is why the thing that I'm most afraid of is a young person falling to the tragedy of failure. As a Christian, I want to be that person that young people can get positive advice from and a shoulder to lean on in difficult times. I want to share with them how I put God first in my life, and if they do the same, their blessings will be overflowing. The most hilarious thing I have ever experienced was a friend of mine left his job early and went home and got in bed with his mother and thought it was his wife. Bad move on his part. Being a role model is to have a role model is a necessary part of the foundation for success in life. Mrs. Mary Jenny Watley is from Lake Charles, and she went to school at W.O. Boston and continued her education and became a school teacher in the area of special education. I will speak for her because she cannot speak for herself. However, she can hear everything I say, and I am her voice in her legs. I promised at the altar that I would be with her in good times and in bad times. Also that I would continue to love her same in both times. Her most interesting life experience was growing up as the only girl with 5 brothers. The most difficult time she had was spending 30 days in jail for participating in a ride for justice during the 60s. Before her health problems, she learned sign language and worked with the deaf children and continued to make a positive contribution in the lives of our youth. She lives a life of being very serious about everything, except she is afraid of mice. She has a very positive outlook on life, and she knows that she is a positive influence on other people's lives. My name is Jamerl Ryan, and it was my honor and pleasure to get to portray 2 of our village heroes. Would you please join me, Mr. and Mrs. Watley, as we spell out Reassembling the Village.
athletes couldn't make it out because of the weather, so what we're going to do is ask for audience participation. For somebody to stand in their place while we finish this little program. It's not going to take long, so you won't be standing up all night, I promise you. I just need a man and a lady to volunteer. Oh, thank you. Okay. Yes. Thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is Tony Mancuso, and I am here for your parents. I grew up in Lake Charles and graduated from Bob High School and McNeese State University. I am married to Mickey, and we have 3 children, Trey, Mary, and Morgan. I have spent all of my adult life since I was 20 years old with the sheriff deputy. During this time, I have had several experiences that comes to mind, but the most recent one is solving the quadruple homicide and solving this injustice to our community. I stay focused on the children and drugs while working hard to protect them. Working with kids have been some of the most interesting times in regards to my job. I always remember to remain compassionate has been my key to remaining tolerant in some of the most difficult situations. I must share that one of the hardest times in my life was when I lost my father last year. You would think in my role that it is not very much that scares me, but I must confess that I do not like ladders because I do not like climbing them. Something about that height. I believe that it is very important for a young person to have a relationship with a mentor or role model so they can learn to imitate positive behavior or help them repair a mistake. Okay, everyone has an embarrassing moment in their life. You see, my girls like to put borax in my hair, and I ran out to the store and forgot to take it out. I got a few smiles along the way. As you would know, there is something hilarious about me. I have a great sense of humor, but more importantly than that, I am short. And you know, as a sheriff, I wear a hat and carry a gun standing tall. And my name is Khalil Lawrence, and it was my pleasure to portray you as my village hero. Would you please join me, Sheriff Tony Mancuso, in spelling out reassembling the village?
Sorry about the difficulties earlier. Okay. Let's try it again. I am John DeRose, and I'm currently your district attorney. I grew up in Eunice, LA, and I attend school there also. After graduation, I enrolled in McNeese State University, LSU, and LSU School of Law. I am married to Lee, and I am the father of 2 children. I served in the Marines, and I'm very proud of the foundation the United States military allowed me to develop. I find that the most interesting experiences in my life is that I am able to use my position to help as many people as I can. I also create programs to prevent many of our citizens from lifelong adversities by finding ways to give a second chance to get it right. My mission is not to lock up everyone, but to create a safe environment through educational mission is not to lock up everyone, but to create a safe environment through education, intimacy, and support all community efforts that will create positive change. I was the driving force behind the formation of the 100 Black Men organization, Lake Charles chapter. I have learned to be innovative in my thinking and understanding that many criminals are out to hurt our children and our village. The most painful thing that I have to do is put children in jail. That really scares me, and I hope that programs like this one will provide a safe haven and hope for many of our youth. I like to explain that there are no old drug dealers and they don't retire with a pension. They die either locked up or shot up. I believe in the value of mentors, and everyone should have one. Even professional people, because we all need someone to lean on and share with. I love people and I love country and Western music. My name is Darren Trey Thompson, and it was my pleasure to get to portray one of our village heroes, Mr. John DeRose. Would you please join me, Mr. John DeRose, as we spell out Reasonable the village.
He doesn't have a real letter, but he does have a hyphen because we got to do reassemble the village. So he's okay.
Good evening. My name is Bobby Dower. I grew up here locally in Lake Charles. I have lived here most of my life. I was very shy as a young kid growing up, and believe it or not, I'm still kind of shy. At the age of 19, I began working at the American Press as a copy boy for the sports section. Then I became a sports editor and was awarded Sport Editor of the Year in 1976. After graduation, I thought it was time for me to work full-time. I grew up in the church. I love to travel and have visited over 39 states and several countries. Best of all is that I had my brother as a personal tour guide in Germany. He graduated from Thunderbird School for his master and had to learn how to speak German. I spent a whole week there. The best thing in life I learned is that hard work from my father. He was a great mentor now that I look back on my childhood years. He worked with his hands and later suffered from crippling arthritis. In the 1990s, he was bedridden and confined to a wheelchair. I was his personal caretaker, and it made me happier than anything. He died in 1999. My parents believed in doing homework before we could do anything else, so the legacy of hard work has been passed down through generations. I think the most embarrassing thing that ever happened to me was when I was eager to publish a sports story, only to too early, only to find out a couple days later that what was mentioned in the article didn't quite go down the way I had put it. So I had to recall the story, and someone else's version was put in instead of mine. The funniest thing that ever happened to me was having an editorial with typos. Don't laugh, we all do it, right? Believe me, I am shy and stand against the wall until I become the comedian to make everyone laugh to get over that shyness. My name is Michael Turner, and it was my pleasure to get to portray you as one of our village heroes, Bobby Dower, as we spell out Reassembling the Village.
Good evening. My name is Don Dixon. I grew up all over the world, including Japan. I went to school in Florida. I am married to Kimberly and I have 2 boys. I spent my life in law enforcement and I now am the chief of police for the city of Lake Charles with a lot of responsibilities. My most interesting life experiences have been with God, so I keep him close to me always. One of the hardest times in my life was when I experienced 17 children being buried in Texas. Can you imagine? Then I grew to learn that it is so important to treat people like you would like to be treated. Simply put, I am afraid of failure, and I work hard to ensure my success and to help everyone else succeed. While I worked every day leading many in the city and responsible for all, I was eager to become a bridge builder mentor. I was already working with kids at Brentwood Elementary, and then bridge builders came along and helped us reach more schools. I believe children need mentors to help them achieve their goals and have role models to work with them. I want them to see me as a friend before they get in trouble, not just as someone in a uniform after they get in trouble. One of the most embarrassing moments was when my first marriage failed. I am sure some of you can identify, and now I have the best. One of the hilarious things about me is that I am a practical joke and I have fun doing it. And my name is Tracy Ron, and it was my pleasure to get to portray you as my village hero.
Good evening. My name is Kim Dixon, and I am from Westlake. While growing up in Westlake, I attended and graduated from McNeese State University. I'm married to Don Dixon and have 2 boys. I've spent time in my life doing cheerleading, involved in church, yard work, and watching my kids play sports. Some of the hardest days of my life were my 9-year-old being born with a heart defect, and I lost my grandfather. Through my life, I've learned to just keep my head up high and wait for good things to come. While I'm not perfect, I've taken stock of the blessings I've received from God and desire to share them with Jasmine Guillory and others. I've done some of this before, and I'm excited about the next chapters in my life, including homework night. One of the most embarrassing moments in my life was when I was at a friend's house and she had a little dog. Her mom was giving all of the kids a grape to give to the dog, but I didn't know, so I ate mine, and when they got to me to give mine to the dog, I was embarrassed because I had already ate it. And the hilarious thing about me would be I don't take things too serious. I'm always happy. And my name is Jasmine Guillory, and it was my privilege to get to spend time with Mrs. Dixon. It is obvious about her that she is a very wonderful person. She has crossed the bridge to a successful life, and I'm grateful that she is part of my life now and homework night. Will you please join us with Mr. and Mrs. Dixon as we spell out reassembling the village?
At our wedding reception, the piano player asked me if I was the father of the bride.
Hello, good evening. My name is Elowina G. Woods. I grew up in Ville Platte, Louisiana, and Crosby, Texas. I graduated from James Stephens High School, Southern University, McNeese State University, and Ryan Renewal Real Estate School. I am married to Charles T. Woods and have 3 kids and 9 grandchildren. I have spent most of my life as an educator for 34 years. 14 years as a speech therapist, 8 years as a counselor, 13 years as a principal, a lifetime real estate agent, and presently I am a director of treatment of AMI Kids School. One of my most interesting times in my life is that I've been married to the same man for 33 years. One of the hardest times in my life is when I lost my mother at the age of 19 and had 4 other siblings to take care of. I learned that a large percentage of children are growing up with grandparents or step-parents. The thing that scares me the most is when the majority of students who come to juvenile justice system in AMI Kids School are often victims of crime themselves. It is important for them to work as a mentor to help kids overcome emotions that destroys the family and community. It is important for a young person to have a relationship with a mentor and role model to let them know that we too had failures. But we got up again, walking with integrity and learning how to handle anger. One of the most embarrassing moments of my life is when I had the slip of tongue. Some hilarious moments about me is that I like to joke with my friends. It's obvious that my new friend had a lot of positive experience in her life, and she cares and is a mentor of the Bridge Builders program. My name is Ebony Ryan. It was my pleasure to get to portray you as my village hero. Would you please join me, Elowina G. Woods, in spelling out reassembling the village? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Griffin. I grew up in Lake Charles, Louisiana on Cherry Street. I attended Washington High School and McNeese State University, where I specialized in psychology. I married Coach Henry Griffin. We have one child and one granddaughter. I spent time in my life serving and helping people. Some of my most interesting life experiences was that I was able to attend President Bill Clinton's inauguration, and also being the first woman president for the police jury. Some of the hardest days in my life was dealing with a previous divorce and being a single parent. And through this, I've learned to respect and have compassion for people. While I'm not perfect, not at all, I've taken stock of blessings I've received from God and desire to share them with my Quailwood folks and others. I've done some of this before, and I'm excited about the next chapter in my life, including homework night. One of my most embarrassing moments occurred while having a conversation and one of my heels broke. So I broke the other one so it could match. Even though I have been through a lot in life, the most thing that scared me is losing someone that I love. My name is Quailwood Folks, and it was my pleasure to portray one of our village heroes, Miss Elizabeth Griffin. Will you please join me and Mr. and Mrs. Griffin as we spell our real name in the village?
Good evening. My name is Mayor Randy Roach, and I am from Lake Charles, Louisiana, where I attended College Oaks Elementary and La Grange High School. I am married to Nancy, and we have 2 children, Brandon and Lauren. I spent most of my adult life as a lawyer and a state representative. My most interesting life experience was getting involved in politics and running for office. My most embarrassing time was when I tried to dance and I couldn't get my good foot together. My most challenging times are growing up. Everyone has challenges growing up because it is the nature of the time in a person's life. Young people go through many changes during the formative years and growing up is an ongoing thing. If it was easy, it would not be worth. When we are young, we tend to look at life at what we have and what we don't have, but most of the unhappy people I know was people with a lot of money, which does not end in happiness. Life is difficult for everyone as they progress through the days of their lives. Every decision that anyone makes has a tendency to be right or wrong, depending on the follow-through and the common sense behind the decision. We often tend to judge people on how they live and look, but that is not necessarily the case. Responsibility must rest on each other, and accountability is our measuring stick for...
Excuse me, sir. You gotta do it right, okay? Talk in the microphone so they can hear you. No offense, but you can't read for yourself. Let's go for it.
Responsibility must be rest on each one of us, and accountability is our measuring stick for our daily progress and the progress of our families. I am most fearful that each one of us will not accomplish what we set out to be. And that is at any age. But my greatest lesson is life, that God is the Bible. is who the Bible says he is, Jesus, and the Bible says he is. My name is Alfredo Reese, and it was my pleasure to portray one of our village heroes, Mayor Randy Roach. Would you please come and join me, Randy Roach?
Say it strong or Willie will come out.
Good evening. My name is Judge Gene Thibodeau. I grew up in St. Landry Parish in a little town called Malley, Louisiana, before moving to Lake Charles in the 9th grade, in which I graduated from Washington High School in 1967. I am married to Phyllis Thibodeau. I have spent time in my life as a lawyer for 17 years prior to becoming a judge for the Calcasieu Parish. I also helped open a community health center, which is now called the SWLA Center for Health. Over the years, I have represented several members of the civil cases. Some of the hardest days of my life was making the adjustment to college from a small town and away from home caused some heartache, and also the death of a parent is never a good feeling to deal with in life. And through this, I have learned to be persistent and to never quit. My words of wisdom are, how can I do my task? And my 4 ways to success are hard work, prepare yourself, care about people, and pass it on. I've done some of this before, and I'm excited about the next chapters in my life, including before a part of homework night. One thing I forgot to say is that the most embarrassing moments in my life was when I got paddled by my PE teacher in front of the entire class. I thought I was untouchable because I was Gene Thibodeau. I know this was a mistake. And other hilarious moment in my life was me trying to learn how to dance hip hop. I realized that it was a younger group. My name is Nick, and it was a pleasure to get to portray one of our village heroes, Judge Gene Thibodeau. He has crossed the bridge to a successful life. Would you please join with me, with Mr. and Mrs. Thibodeau, as we spell out the assembly of the village?
Good evening. My name is Personal Kane. I grew up in Alexandria, Louisiana, and I graduated from none other than the famous Peabody High School. Simply put, they're the best. Look at it. I went on to Tulane University and the All-American grade, LSU. I'm married to Diane, and we have 3 kids, 1 girl and 2 sons and 3 grandchildren. I spent my life as a practicing doctor for over 35 years. And my most interesting experiences, simply put, is perseverance. I have found that the hardest times in my life has been overcoming some of its surroundings. With that, I have learned that you either adjust or get left behind because life goes on. Being a doctor, I must admit that one of the things that scares me the most is our youth and their lack of interest in taking care of their health. I love meeting people, and I pride myself in not judging people. I read a lot and study hard, and I work hard and not wasting time. I think it is so important that kids have a mentor and a role model to have as a go-to person for comfort, and sometimes just to be able to ask someone questions. One of my most embarrassing moments was when I was in 3rd grade and I got slapped by the teacher. The other time was when I met a special person who I did not know, who had become a dear friend, and I was trying to help him I was trying to tell him how to fix my car. He looked at me and said, "Why don't you let me be the mechanic and I'll let you be the doctor?" We just laughed, and we are best friends today. And he is still my mechanic, and I'm still the doctor. No one would know that some of my most hilarious moments is just having good fun. My name is Jeremy Reynolds, and it was a pleasure to get to portray you as my village hero.
Good afternoon. My name is Diane Kane. I grew up in Natchez, Mississippi, and I am happily married to Dr. Percival Kane. I have 3 beautiful children and 3 beautiful grandchildren. All my life, classical music have entertained me. I just messed up. Okay, can I start over? Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Diane Kane. I grew up in Natchez, Mississippi. I am happily married to Dr. Percival Kane and have 3 beautiful children and 3 beautiful grandchildren. I received my bachelor's degree at Dillard University and my master's degree at Louisiana State University. I spent 5 years of my life in the school system and 21 years as a bridal consultant. Fine arts has always interested me. All my life, I've been entertained by classical music, poetry, paintings, and much more. My hardest times in life was the stage when I wanted everyone to accept me. I was trying to change people around me until I've learned the only person I can change is myself. You may look at me and think that I am perfect. Think again. Throughout my life, I've been blessed in many ways from the one and only God. I wish I had time to share them with you. However, I'll stand before you rambling on and on. I'm extremely excited about the next chapters in my life, including homeworknight.com. I feel a young person should have a relationship with a mentor or a role model so they can grow and learn from the mistakes they have made with someone there to help them along the way. A hilarious thing about me is I always catch the punchline late. One of my embarrassing moments in life happens almost daily when technology is involved. New technology doesn't always quite come easy to me. My name is Raven Evans. And like Miss Kane, I plan to attend a historical black college, and I will also love to pledge Alpha Kappa Alpha. It is my pleasure to portray our village heroes. Would you please join with me, Mr. and Mrs. Kane, to spell out resembling our village?
Good afternoon. I am Lester Langley, and I am a native. I'm a native of Jennings, Louisiana, where I attend Jennings Elementary and later Pearl Watson Elementary. I went to Lake Charles High and McNeese State University. I am married to Sheila, and we have a wonderful life spending time with our grandchildren. We have 5 grandchildren and 10 great-grandchildren. I'm a certified public accountant where I am part owner of Fox 29 Television. For much of my life, I had to make it on my own and because we are very poor, many times when we lived in the housing projects, food was and meals were far and few between. I realized that my greatest was hard work and dreams and education. I am most afraid of people who have no fear of God and does not believe in grace. It is important for people to have a role model because there are people who can help guide them in the right direction and give great advice. Most of my embarrassing moment was when my wife and I had to bring a car to Beaumont for his brother, but instead they brought both vehicles back to Lake Charles. The most hilarious thing was when I was a child and I was waiting for my parents to come home, and a car looked like theirs drove by. I chased after the car. I chased the car down the street. My name is Nick, and it was my pleasure to portray you as one of our village heroes, Mr. Lester Langley, as we spell out re-establishing the village.
Good evening. My name is Sheila Langley. I grew up in Lake Charles, Louisiana. I'm married to Lester Langley. I have 5 children. I spent most of my life going to school. I graduated from Barb High School, then later graduated from McNeese State University and earned my degree to teach 4th and 2nd grade. My most interesting life experiences is my children and 10 grandchildren. My hardest time in life is when I first got married and was living paycheck to paycheck. I've learned in life to trust in God and have faith. I never catch jokes when my husband says them, but hey, what are they here for? I think mentors are a necessity in young children's life for positive guidance. My name is Ariel Washington. That's it.
I'm glad you know, Lester. Come on.
5 children and 10 grandchildren. We have no great-grandchildren.
Good evening. My name is Wayne Savoy and I grew up in Lake Charles. I graduated from LaGrange High School and played baseball for McNeese State University. I am married to Ella Elizabeth Savoy and 2 children, Tessa and Kira. I have spent all of my life being in education while learning to working with people. One of my most interesting life experiences is watching my parents raise us when my father had a 4th grade education and my mother graduated at the age of 14. With little education, they always made sure we did our homework. Some of the hardest time in my life was when people judged me from where I came and not for what I was capable of doing. When I was young, my grandmother asked me to look across the field and tell her what I saw. She said a young person may see the world from one perspective and an older person has seen the world from many perspectives. The biggest thing I learned is that everyone had the same color tears, their feelings are the same whether happy or sad. I am not sure of what really scares me, just that I learned as a young child that I may be seeing the world from one perspective, while an older person had seen it from another perspective, which is why I believe kids should have a role model or mentor. One of my most embarrassing was growing up feeling like I was living a good life because I had clothes and food, but found out I was poor and I didn't realize it. I didn't know what that meant because my parents did not let me think I was poor. Something hilarious about me that you can appreciate is that when I started this position as superintendent of the parish, I was 6'1", and now I am 5'7". It was very obvious to me that Mr. Savoy is very compassionate about our community, and wants to help people. And my name is Kalijah Lord, and it was my pleasure to get to portray you as my village hero. Would you please join me, Wayne Savoy, in spelling out "We Are Singing the Village"?
Good evening. My name is Harold Nixon, and I grew up in Lake Charles. I went to the Sacred Heart Catholic School and graduated from Lake Charles High School. I am married to Cheryl, and we have the 3 children, India, Jacob, and Zach. I have spent most of my life in the United States Marine Corps, and I am a big Dallas fan. Some of my most interesting times were in college, and I must say that the hardest times of my life is being separated from my family while serving in the military. I have learned that perseverance is a key, and you must never quit being in the military. There is not much that scares me. I think it is important that young kids have a role model, mentor to help make life better when life becomes unpredictable. Sometimes hilarious about me that I am willing to share it that I met my wife at a car wash, and my name is Willie Lars, and it was my pleasure to get to portray you as my village hero.
Hello, my name is Cheryl Dixon. I grew up in Lake Charles and graduated from Lake Charles High School and McNeese State University. I am married to Harold Nixon and have 3 kids named India, Jacob, and Zachary Nixon. I spent most of my life as a congressman. Most of the interesting life. Okay. The most interesting lifetime experiences is working for a congressman. The hardest time in my life is when my father died, when I was at the age of 6 years old. The big stuff I have learned is now to help people. I am often afraid for my children. I worry about my children and believe that it is important that kids have mentors and role models to give them something to look forward to. One of the most embarrassing moments is when my children did something that they wasn't supposed to do. Something hilarious about me is I love to laugh. My name is Miosha Wilson, and I am pleasure to get to portray you as my village hero. I would like to please join me, Mr. and Mrs. Harold Nixon, in spelling out reassembling the village.
Good evening. My name is Pastor Erica Braxton. I grew up in Lake Charles and graduated from LaGrange High School. I am married to Clarence Braxton Jr. and we have 2 children. I came from a single-parent home and I graduated from McNeese State University, and I am the oldest of 2. One of the most interesting times in my life is that I have been married for 16 years to one man, and the hardest time in my life was when I lost my mother. Yet I learned that with Christ all things are possible. It really scares me that children are growing up without parents and all sorts of things are happening to them. It is important to me that families focus on forgiveness and letting go of things from the past. I believe that it is important that kids have mentors or role models to go to if they don't have it at home. One of the most embarrassing moments was when I broke my shoe in church. Something hilarious about me is that I love to laugh and do things that make you laugh. And my name is Mariah Collins, and it was my pleasure to portray you as my village hero. Would you please join me, Pastor Braxton, in spelling out reassembling the village?
Good evening. My name is Perry Vincent, and I grew up in Lake Charles, Louisiana. I went to school at Brentwood Elementary, FK Middle, FK White, and LaGrange High School. I am married to Linva. I have no biological children but one great stepson, River. As strange as it sounds, I spent most of my life cutting grass and selling popcorn and peanuts at McNeese games. I grew up in one Pentecostal church and have never left my Christianity. I have had to learn the values of hard work and consistency at a very early age. We grew up without a lot. You can see we could not afford to shop and buy Levi jeans and name brand tennis shoes. We had to shop at Kmart, and I could afford to pay for my pens or shoes was $1. One of the hardest things I have to do in my life is getting married a second time. But today it is one of the best things I ever done. I never left God out of my life, and which lead me to becoming a millionaire owner Lake Charles Communication and Southwest Radio. I am not afraid of anything because I have had to do most everything to become successful, not accepting anything less than the best of myself. I just always kept God with me. I think it is so very important that we have mentors and role models, just so our kids can have someone to look up to and be there for them to help them know that they can be accomplishing anything with hard work and consistency. One of my most embarrassing moments was when working and was able to buy a special pair of brown paid pants for $1. When I wore them to school, the kids laughed at me so much I hid it in the bathroom until school was over. They were mean and ugly after all I had worked hard for that $1. Today I was worked as a musician, and I don't care what I wore or what I look like to others. I just get into my shoes and be the best I can. I must share that it does not matter where you come as long as you kept God in your life and you be consistent with hard work. And my name is Joy Griffin, and it was my pleasure to get to portray you as my village leader.
Good evening. My name is Christina Ann White. I grew up in Lake Charles from the 1st to the 5th grade, and then I moved to Sacramento, California. I am married to Thomas White Sr., and we have 2 boys and 1 girl. I spent my life teaching and then becoming a high school counselor. Some of my most interesting life experiences have been working with the young people. Some of my hardest times was living through the tough days when my mom and dad did not get along. Yet I managed to learn that knowledge and education was so important. I really became scared when I met young people with no goals and no set directions. This is why I think it is very important for young people to have a relationship with a mentor or a role model and find someone that can be a good example for them. One of my most embarrassing moments was what I got my report card at McNeese State University. Like everyone, I had to bubble what I did not do as well as I knew I could. Do you know what I'm talking about? I quickly got it together and did what I knew I was capable of doing. You know, some of my most hilarious moments is when I am in class and see the way the kids look at me doing science. Yes, I can see it all, just as most teachers can. It's just a gift that teachers have. And my name is Skylar Richard, and that is my pleasure to get the brochure you as my village hero. Will you please join me, Ms. White, as we spell out reassembly the village?
I never knew it took so many alphabets to do reassembly the village. But we'll be done at 6:30, like we said. Come on, baby. Sometimes you gotta double up. The rain washed a few of our readers away, so we're just gonna double up right here.
Good evening. I am Bobby Moore, and I am the most interesting guy I know. I am the Springville, Arkansas, and I attend Central School, and I played baseball, and I was a pitcher. I spent 30 years in the Army, and I have traveled all over the world and enjoy our life every day. I am married to Ann, and we have 3 children, Tiffany, Michael, and Robert. And my most interesting life experience has been raising my children and being a polite pilot. I am executive director of a company called
If you don't know that, I'm on fire.
And we flew airplanes at Chennault International Air Base. The hardest time in my life.
Come on. Go ahead.
I tell people that would be difficult days, and on Christmas of 2006, 2 of my guys were going home to see their families and got killed. That was a defining moment, and life does change. But I have learned that life is what you make it, and you must decide each moment what direction you want to go in. I am afraid of snakes, and I try to avoid them every chance. I get one of my most embarrassing moments has been trying to water ski, and I spend my life in loving a fun life and having fun doing it. A minister is important because they have an experienced person to call on, which is like money in a bank. Knowledge pays, mentors have knowledge. My name is Willie, and it was my pleasure to get to portray one of our village heroes, Bobby Moore. Would you please join me, Mr. Moore, as we spell out resembling the village?
I think his airplane crashed. Well, he didn't get here yet. But it's coming. I'm going to stand over there with him. It's our magnificent.
Oh.
I fix cars. I better Mike.
Good evening. I'm Billy Navarre. I grew up in Welch, Louisiana. The schools I went to were Westlake High, and then I later attended McNeese State University. I am married to Carrie Navarre. I have children by the name of Ryan, Jareth, Barrett, Grant, Bryce, and Caitlin. I spent my life learning about business and being a business entrepreneur. Some of my interesting life experiences is owning 5 automobile dealerships and having 6 children. The hardest time in my life was when my father died when I was 5 years old. He left my mom with 5 children, no life insurance, and a house mortgage. My mom had no work experience and had to take a night job at minimum wage to feed 5 kids. The most important thing I've learned is the value of life won't be determined at your death by how big your house is or how much money you have, but by how many people you have helped. The things that scare me in life are that the government is spending our country into bankruptcy, and people depend on Social Security and Medicare will greatly suffer. I've also learned that if you want something bad enough, you learn all you can and do all the effort that it takes to get it, and you never quit. We can achieve most anything. I believe it's very important for young people to have role models because everyone plays the world's oldest game. It's called follow the follower. We all imitate someone. Too many times people follow the wrong person. Something hilarious about me is I started my job at 17 years old at a finance company and was made manager at 18. People would ask me my age and I would